So let's talk about preparing for the Level 1 exam. This slide is important because it tells you what it is that you are signing up for. We have 10 topics distributed across 6 volumes, and the 10 topics are shown over here. These are the 6 volumes. The weightage is also given. Ethics is 15% of your exam, so it's quite important. Quantitative methods, which is what we will start with, is 12% of the exam, and quantitative methods is the foundation. So a lot of what you will study later will depend on quantitative methods. It's important to spend time on this topic and make sure you are good at it. Financial reporting and analysis is 20% of the exam. This is the heaviest weight. And the reason is that as financial analysts, you need to understand how to analyze financial statements. So those who have an accounting background of sorts will find that background helpful. These are the other topics. I will also mention economics, which is 10% of the exam. This is 10%, but the amount of material is immense. If you've not seen economics before or you've not studied it before, then there will be some extra effort required here, and I'll talk about that shortly. In terms of the actual exam, it's a 6-hour exam broken into 2 3-hour sessions. In most countries, the exam will be from 9 a.m. till 12 noon and then from 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock. In each 3-hour session, you will have 120 questions, which means that you will have about 90 seconds per question. Don't worry about this time too much at this stage in your preparation. Initially, you need to get comfortable with the concepts and learn the core material. And obviously, towards the last couple of months, when you practice a lot, then you will be able to do questions quickly. The exam is organized by topic, but you can attempt questions in any order. And what I mean by that is, when you look at your actual exam, or before that, I hope you will be looking at several mock exams, you will notice that the first set of questions are ethics, then the second set of questions are quantitative methods, and so on. Now, you can do the questions in any order you want, and as we get closer to exam day, we can talk about different techniques. But all I'm emphasizing here is that you don't have a situation where somebody tells you that you are done with ethics, now go to something else. The 3 hours are yours, and you can spend the 3 hours any way you want. All right. What I will now talk about is some general study advice. The first important point is that you need to define a study schedule and stick to it. So whether or not you are working with me, you should still define a schedule. One option is to simply follow the IFT schedule. That's the schedule that I have created for my group of students, but we'll make that freely available so anybody can use that. Or you can define your own schedule based on your background and circumstances. Some people might be good at a particular topic and they'll spend less time on it. You might know that you have more time to spend in, let's say, the month of August, so you can cover more material then. Everybody's circumstances are different, so you can customize a schedule based on your situation. But regardless of your situation, there are some topics that need to be done early. You can't do quant towards the end because there are so many other topics that depend on quantitative methods. So this should be one of the earliest topics. And I like to do FRA after quant because if you think of topics like equity and so on, they rely on financial statements, and hence being able to understand and interpret financial statements is also important. So something that we will do here is quant first and FRA second, and then the other topics, with other topics, the order is not as significant. In terms of the schedule, I'd also say that you try to be done at least 4 weeks before the exam. And the reason is that you will notice there is so much material to cover and you keep forgetting material. So you need about 4 to 5 weeks at least at the end to do a review and to do lots of practice. When you do lots of practice at the end, that's when you remember the material better. So create a schedule and follow a schedule such that you are done about 4 weeks before the exam, or at least 4 weeks before the exam. Review your study material from, so this is another general piece of advice. Review study material from different sources and decide what works best for you. In the sense that some people like to study from videos, some people like to read the curriculum, some people like to read notes, and then there are several vendors that offer notes, there are several vendors that offer videos. So you spend a little bit of time figuring out what works best for you. And then once you've decided, then stick to that. Don't keep switching around, because that is an unnecessary waste of time. Next point, make your learning as active as possible. And before I go into the sub-bullet points here, I'll just make a general remark. If you spend too much time reading, then the problem is that it's hard to absorb and it's hard to retain. On the other hand, if you read a little bit and then practice a question, then read some more and practice, this is called active learning. And when you read and learn and practice actively, then you retain more. And that's how you need to do this particular course. So when we are doing quantitative methods, we are doing time value of money. You learn a concept, then you do an example. Learn a concept, do an example. If you are following our notes, there'll be lots of examples there. We'll keep referring to the curriculum examples, so do those. What we've done this time is, with the curriculum examples, we have created separate videos that explain every example in the curriculum. And that's something that you will have access to. So try the example on your own. If you get stuck, you can ask me or you can look at the video. If you feel that the video is not explaining something, those who are online as part of this course can always ask me. When you are learning, take notes and highlight important concepts and formulas, and develop a consistent pattern for taking notes. What I mean by that is, first of all, I'll tell you what you should not do. What you should not do is have lots of scraps of paper and your notes distributed all over the place. That way, when you are trying to study later, you don't know where you've written your notes. So decide on a process, and I'm not going to tell you what the right process is, that depends on you. I'll just give you some examples. One example is that you print the IFT slides which go with the videos. And then when you listen to the videos, you take notes there. When you read the curriculum or you read our notes, you can take notes there. So that's one consistent process. Another consistent process is that you can print out our notes and write on that. Another is that you can have your own notebook and then just write everything down there. So do whatever it is you want, but be consistent. And one final method that I've seen people do is actually write in the curriculum. That used to be popular in the past, but now most people use the electronic version. So you can still take notes in the ebook, but many people find that tedious. But again, the point is you decide what works for you and then stick to that. Going back to active learning, I mentioned that as you study something, you need to obviously keep practicing. But when you are done with the reading, then you should do the practice problems from the curriculum. And that is something that I'll spend a lot of time on in these sessions. And also, we will share with you practice problems for every reading. You can think of that as a test. For example, with time value of money, we've already shared the set of questions. So when you are done with time value of money, do those questions, and then you will see how well you've learned that particular reading. After every topic, there will be a quiz. Once we are done with quantitative methods, then you will get a quiz, and you need to do that quiz to test how well you have understood that topic. Now the final point on the slide, and I'll tell you the context over here. One of the most frequent complaints from candidates is that there is so much material that as we do new things, we forget old things. Now, how do you deal with that? The way I suggest you deal with that is, if you've been taking notes consistently, then take out a certain amount of time every week, maybe half an hour to an hour every week, where you go back and keep reviewing your notes. So if you review your notes and practice some old questions, then the material will remain fresh in your head. But you need to make this part of your process. All right, now, so far I've been talking in general terms. Now what I'm going to do is talk about our particular schedule for this live online course. We are starting with quantitative methods, and we'll cover quantitative methods between 15th June and 10th July. The quiz will be on 13th July. So this is the plan. On the next slide, I will show you the detailed plan by day for quantitative methods, and the detailed plan for the other topics has been published on our website. Even those who are not taking this live online course can follow this schedule if they want. Now notice a couple of notes that I've made. Economics has an asterisk. We are doing economics at the end, but this is 10% of your exam, but the content is a lot. If you've not seen economics before, then what I would suggest is that after mid-July, once we are done with quantitative methods, then you start studying economics on your own. You will have access to the video lectures. You can start listening to those so that when we cover economics later, then you have the context. Otherwise, the material is so much that trying to do it in this time, in about 13-14 days, if you've not studied economics before, then it's extremely difficult. So I want you to ideally in mid-July, but if you have some slack in your schedule somewhere else, then spend some time on economics. Also, ethics is extremely important. This is 15% of your exam. It's only 4 readings, and those 4 readings are 15%. Think about it this way. Economics is much more in terms of volume of material than ethics, but the weightage is much less. So ethics is 15%, which is the biggest weight after financial reporting and analysis. And this is something you need to do well on. In fact, if you do well on ethics, then you get some bonus points. So it's critical. Some people think that you cannot pass without doing well on ethics. That's not true. But if you do well on ethics, that gives you a bonus. So think positive. With ethics, even though I'm covering it last, but I'm suggesting that after equity, you start studying ethics on your own. And the reason I say that is, by the time we get done with equity, you will have learned several key terms such as initial public offering, or there'll be other terms that if you are not familiar with the financial industry, you might not be as familiar with. But once you are done with equity, then this material that is referenced in ethics becomes a lot easier. So after mid-September, you should start ethics. Then our session will be primarily a review. All right. On this slide, I'm just giving you an example of a detailed schedule. The schedule is available on our website. But the point is that we will have a session every Sunday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pakistan time. And this is the plan. So obviously, you will notice several readings on a particular date. And that is because I'm expecting you to listen to the videos ahead of these sessions. And over the next few slides, I'll talk in more detail about what I expect from you and what you can expect from me. But this is an important anchor date, the quiz. The quiz for quantitative methods is on 13th July. I've noticed over the years that people who take the quizzes seriously, they have a very high probability of passing. Those who do not take the quizzes seriously and try to do everything at the end, then they are playing with danger and they are making their life a whole lot more stressful. All right. Now, before, during, after, this is the next slide. Here I'll talk about what I expect from you before a class, then what we will do during a class, and what do you need to do after an online class. Before the online session, you must listen to the videos and or read the IFT notes. These IFT notes will typically be shared with you approximately 6 days before every class, so you have time to read them. And I put this and or because some people like to learn from videos, other people like to read, other people like to do both. So we will give you everything and then it's up to you how you study. So you can study any way you want, but you have to do questions. You can do questions from the curriculum, you can do our questions Questions in the curriculum, broadly speaking, have two categories. One category is examples, other category is the practice problems at the end. So do those. And then if you have any questions, submit those questions on our LinkedIn group, which we will share with you 24 hours before the live session. So in terms of my time, what that means is that if our session according to Karachi time is Sunday evening, by Saturday evening, I will have the questions from you. So Saturday night, Sunday morning, I will then look at your questions and then create a lecture that is customized based on the questions that come in. Then during the session, essentially, I will try to do three things. The most important item will be responding to the questions that come in. The second will be for the readings that are targeted for that particular day, I'll cover the most important concepts. Obviously, we don't have time to go over everything. The go over everything part should have been done by you through the videos or through the notes. My job is to say, okay, you've read all this. Did you understand these 3 or 4 core points? Because if you read everything but you missed the core point, then obviously that's not a good thing. So I'll emphasize the core points. I will answer your questions. And then I will also do questions with you, because you really test whether you've understood something or not when you do questions. And I will try to focus more on the practice problems from the curriculum. Many people don't spend enough time on the curriculum problems. And one reason is that with quantitative methods, the problems in the curriculum are not in MCQ format. Some of them are pretty long, as you will see in our next segment today. But the concepts are very good, so my job is to communicate those concepts. So that's what happens during the session. After the session, I want you to practice more questions. So some of you might not have been able to practice as much before the class, but after the class, definitely go back and do the questions. You can, if you've not done the curriculum questions, do them. If you've not done the IFT questions, do those and start getting ready for the next class. So essentially, for the next few months, this is a major chunk of your life. So most of you are working, so you work, and then the rest, your social life, you can put on hold. It's your essential necessities of life and CFA exam prep. When you sign up for the exam, you will get these postcards. I don't know if any of you have done so yet, but you will get postcards that essentially joke about the fact that there is no life other than CFA prep for the next few months. All right. Okay. Next question is how to study. So I've already alluded to this. I've mentioned that you can listen to the videos and or read the IFT notes. Have the curriculum open when you are studying, because all our material references the curriculum, even our sections are numbered according to the curriculum. So you can see a correlation. I've mentioned this already. Develop a consistent pattern for taking notes, whatever that pattern might be. You decide what's good for you and stick to it. Review your notes at least once per week for retention. Work through the examples when doing a reading. And at the end, you need to do the practice problems from the curriculum. So end of every reading, do the practice problems from the curriculum and the IFT practice problems. All right. Next slide, website and social media. So this is our website, irfanullah.co. Any updates are posted here, schedules are posted here. You can go to our Facebook page. Generally, we share advice and other comments come over here. You can also interact with other candidates from different parts of the world. I would encourage you to join our new LinkedIn group. So this is the name of the group. You will get these slides. You can just get onto LinkedIn and share this. So this allows you to network. Plus this is the link, or this is the group where you will be posting your questions. The advantage of posting here is then you can see what questions other people are posting, right? And the advantage for me is that I can just go to one place. And so basically every Saturday night or early Sunday morning, I'll go here and I'll pick up the questions for the next class. I would recommend that you join Analyst Forum. this is something that we support as an analyst forum. Actually is a forum that brings together various prep providers like IFT and thousands of candidates from all over the world. There are lots of forums for CFA candidates. The biggest one is Analyst Forum, and I've noticed that when people post questions here, they get answered quite quickly. And the reason I'm mentioning this is we are following a particular schedule. So if you publish a question to us or post a question to us based on a schedule, then we cover it. But let's say for some reason you have a question about economics right up front. I'm not going to answer that question because I have to go according to the schedule that I have defined. But if you want your answer, then you post it on Analyst Forum, and there is a good chance that somebody will answer your question. All right, so that is it in terms of some high-level thoughts and advice. I want you to study hard, and our goal is to learn a lot and to pass the exam. I keep saying this, that in my opinion, passing the exam has some involvement of the instructor. I would say instructor role is 20% and candidate role is 80%. Because no matter how good the instructor, if the candidates don't practice, it's very hard to pass. So make sure that you study hard. My job here is to answer questions that you have and provide resources and help you as much as I can. Your job is to do practice and ask questions and get ready to pass the exam. All right, it's not that hard. As long as you practice and you learn the main concepts, you'll do well. Also, another just high-level advice before we get into quantitative methods is that don't get hung up with the details. I've seen some very bright students not pass because they try to understand every detail. And you will see this in some of the readings that we do. In the curriculum, you'll find these complicated formulas for calculating kurtosis or complicated formulas for calculating skewness. You can spend 2 days learning those formulas, but from an exam perspective, they're not that important. What you need to understand is the concept and then just do practice. In doing practice, you will come across the questions that are important. So don't get hung up with the details. Follow the schedule. So as long as you are following the schedule and doing the best you can in the time that you have, do that. If you start getting into details, the first thing that goes out of the window is the schedule. And generally, in Karachi there was an exception, but generally the exam date does not change. So your exam date is the first Saturday in December, which I believe is 6th of December. So it's 6th of December. So that's the day that is fixed. And therefore your schedule also needs to be fixed. All right. So that's it in terms of my high-level remarks. I will see if there are any questions from online students, and then we will get into the first reading, which is time value of money.